Come on. There we go. Oh, God. All right. We're going live. Twitter's telling us they now require a premium account to do live broadcasts. All right. So I guess we have to upgrade. Well, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool and Jonathan. Today we have a special guest. You're kind of a fanboy for this guy, so you've mentioned him on the show a lot.
Can you list my faves on here, Sean? You know, Kevin's one of them. Okay.
Yeah.
Who? Take a guess.
Bly.
Bob Bly. There you go.
Bob Bly's another one. Apple products are another one. Anything with the word seduction in the title.
That's right.
Or
Robert Greene. Anything by him is probably good. I don't think we'll get him on, but we could try.
No, probably not. But yeah, no, we've got a special guest on today. Episode 361. Man.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know.
So we're going to be talking about a little book. I'm not going to show the cover just yet, but we're kind of talking about real marketing in a digital world.
Yes.
And you and I talk about this quite a bit, but this is an example of a guy who's doing it on a regular basis and finding some success with it. So I guess I'll let you do the bio and then we'll bring him on.
Yeah. So today we've got returning guest, Kevin Donlin. He is the #1 authority of real marketing in a digital world. He's a copywriter, marketing advisor. If you haven't, and I'll give a little plug for him because I don't like to just read stuff. He's got some stuff in the back of this book that I'll highlight, but I've told Kevin that I follow him on LinkedIn, and he's got a great newsletter called the AHA. He puts it out every now and then, but is really good. Really actionable stuff that he puts out. He's a good writer, great copywriter. So I guess my fanboy is showing there, Sean. So I will move on to the. So who is Kevin? He writes direct mail, web pages, emails, other promotions for his clients. He's been marketing since 1994. And he sold his first, I think we mentioned this on the previous interview that we had him, but this is kind of interesting. He sold his first ebook back in 1994, which I wasn't even on the internet at that time. It's How to Find a Job on the Internet. That was the title of the book. So he was a webmaster for FedEx.com. This guy's done a number of things. He's been featured on Wall Street Journal, New York Times, blah, 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 all of those major publications. Great marketer, great copywriter. And I guess with that said, we'll welcome him to the show. Oh, there we go.
Welcome to the show. A little bit of delay on the audience.
I almost hit the wrong button. I've switched up some things.
That's good. I gotta get used to that. That's a fantastic welcome. Thanks, guys. Good to be here again.
Yeah, good to have you.
Yeah, always good to have a beer with you, there, Kev.
Yeah. So, Kevin, if you were to tease the audience real quick on one thing they might learn on this podcast today, what's a good tease in your best copywriter fascination bullet? What might
I'd like to give you over $500 million of big ass ideas in the next 45 minutes or so.
There we go. I like that. $500 million worth of ideas.
Yeah, be sure to ask me where that came from.
Yeah, because you doubled what the book, because on the book cover it says 204 million.
Right. Over delivers for us.
Stuff that I've helped do, but my record is over $200 million of ideas in this little booklet. But no, the subtitle is How to Grow Your Business with Real Words and Real Media. It's 2 ideas that we can unpack. Real words and real media. But yeah, a lot to talk about, and we'll get going whenever you want to.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome.
Well, as you know, we like to imbibe a little bit on this show. So we let our guests go first. And you said you have a drink and you picked it for a reason. So I'm curious to hear what that is.
Well, so being Irish, I know you guys are craft beer. This is kind of the Irish version of Budweiser. It's still good. It's Guinness. with a couple of asterisks. It's non-alcoholic. I'm no longer a drinker, so it's an NA beer, and it's also since shrinkflation. I don't know when it started, but a pint is now 14.9 ounces apparently.
So you want pints?
Wow.
You know, anyway, it's still good. I've been to the Guinness Brewery back in the day in the 80s, and I've been to the Source, and it was good. But this will do for today. So I'm gonna, and as you know, it takes a while to pour a good pint of stout. So I'm gonna start now, and I'll throw it back at you guys. What do you guys think?
I'll go first. So a friend of mine is from kind of the Wisconsin area, and he went up for a trip, I think over Memorial Day weekend. He brought me back a beer. So this is, hand carried from Wisconsin. It's called New Glarus Brewing Company. And it is what's it called? It's called an Imperial Radler. So I don't even know exactly what a Radler is, but it says it's kind of a mix of, and this kind of scares me, Jonathan, but it's got some citrus, tropic blast, but it's also a Pilsner. So I'm not sure exactly what to expect here. He said it was pretty good, and it's like an 8.25%, so pretty strong for a Pilsner.
Yeah, really.
I think it's just an IPA disguised as something else, but I could be wrong. So
what's the IBUs? Is that?
I couldn't find it on the can. Didn't say. So they're hiding that too.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, it looks very citrusy. Got that cloudy kind of IPA look. So
yeah.
But it's fine. It doesn't smell hoppy. So we'll see.
Maybe good.
Yeah, maybe it's just a good summer beer. We'll see.
Cool. Well, I've got I tell you, during our little break, I've gotten hooked on a really good Sam Adams beer. It's their new summer ale, limited, and it is the citrus wheat ale. This one is so good. So I'm cheating a little bit because I already know what I'm going to rate it.
Yeah.
But this one's been my regular, afternoon whenever I have a cold one. This has been the one that I go to, and
good
it is
golf course swimming pool beer.
Always. Yes. This one goes in the golf bag for sure.
Yeah.
And cool. It's very refreshing during the summer. So
I'm hoping that's what this is. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's cheers it up.
Cheers it up.
Launch it.
Cheers.
Sean, that 8.4%, don't be operating your lawnmower after we're done.
He's had higher.
Yeah. That's kind of our goal around here is try to find something around 8.
That's right.
We don't do many 6 and 5s percenters around here. So
I think the highest Sean had a 17 once, didn't you?
Yeah. One of the Imperial Stouts or something like that.
He faded pretty quickly.
I have in the next 15 minutes before we go wander off the reservation. So.
Yeah, I did find a new kind of drink down at the local CBD store, and I have a THC drink, and I've got a couple of those in the fridge that I may have to break out one episode.
Yeah,
I'm a little nervous about that. But
I think that's a whole other podcast. The THC.
That is, but now we can get THC by the pint, apparently. So. What do you know?
I would be delusioned by the pint instead of persuasion.
Exactly. All right. So, Kevin, we rate these on a score of 1 to 5. You can use decimal points if you want, 5 being the best. So, where do you rate your Guinness Zero?
My Guinness Zero, I'll give it a solid 4, just because it reminds me of the real stuff. And
that's good.
This came out a bit flat. I think it's because I didn't rinse the soap suds off I'm kind of a beer glass Nazi. You got to be, I think there's some soap suds in here, residual suds that kept the head down. So it's a 4.
4. All right. This is actually really good. It's definitely citrusy, but it's not hoppy at all. So it does kind of have that, probably similar to what you're having, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Reminds me of some of like the lemon shandies from some of those type of things. So yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm actually going to give it I'll give it a 4.25.
Ooh, 4.25.
Yeah.
Speaking of shandies, that's one of Bob, that was his go-to beer when he came on the show, Bob Bly.
Yep.
Great copyright. Wow. Yeah, Bob Bly. I'm a fan.
Yep.
Yeah. He's been in that game a long time.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned earlier, I kind of cheated. So I already know what I knew before the show. This one's getting a 4. I might say a 4.8, 4.9. I'll go ahead and say 4.9. It's that good. I'm not going to give it a 5, but it's good enough to be like teetering right on the edge.
Man, that should be a pretty easy one to find in the stores too.
Oh, it is. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's a new edition. They change it up a little every year, but it almost tastes like it's not too bitter. I think what I like about it, it's not too citrusy. There's a fine balance. It's almost got a little, it almost feels like there's a little bit of sweet and citrusy in there. So
nice.
It's really good.
All right. That's a good round of beers today.
Yeah. Very good.
4 and above. So not bad at all. All right. Well, Jonathan, I'll let you drive since,
yeah. So
how much you like Kevin's work.
So I'm interested because I was like, I kind of stalk Kevin a lot of what he's doing on LinkedIn. And I know we've had him on to talk. And I think I mentioned in an email that I sent to Kevin this week or last week that I noticed he had this new mini book out. So I was really curious because I love the whole concept of the mini book because they're just short, concise. They get straight to the point. They're what you need. And so I reached out to him immediately because I follow him on his AHA newsletter, which I would recommend anybody get. He's also got, what is the, Kevin, what's the cylinder that you send out? What do you call that?
It's called a client cloning kit.
The client cloning kit.
It's not a pipe bomb. I've had people say, somebody wanted to put this in a bucket of water.
Yeah.
No. But it's we can talk about the client cloning kit. That's available on my website at clientcloningsystems.com.
Right.
You can get my AHA newsletter just on LinkedIn if you follow me.
Yep.
I believe if you follow me, you get it.
Yep.
You also
I used to get the physical copy in the mail, which I was like, it's almost like for a year I got it, and then I realized, it's like, obviously those costs add up, but it's still pretty cool because I always look forward to getting that, even like that one page physical newsletter. There's something about the physical newsletter of that. But yeah, just to his book, the title of his new mini book is Real Marketing in a Digital World. We've talked to Kevin in the past, and one of his strategies, which I love, and he'll mention some strategies from the book, is the paper email. And that's worked for me. We were talking about it before the show started, which I've incorporated into my business because I have clients, B2B clients that I reach out to on a regular basis in the industrial sectors. And occasionally you'll reach a person, you'll have contact with them, have a meeting with them, and then they don't respond to you. So, or they don't respond to your emails. So, I started adopting the paper email approach. And I would say probably, I would give it in my business, it works about 75% of the time. I'll get a response back after I send that paper email back. Because I typically don't just send it mail. I typically will send it like a FedEx or UPS. I don't know if that's your approach, but I would assume that's probably your approach, especially if you're dealing with somebody, on a high level. But
sure, you just have to, what are the economics, right? How much is a new client worth?
Exactly.
I'll walk people through this equation. If they buy something for $1,000, they buy 3 times over their life, it's a $3,000 client. Well, could you invest $1? The U.S. mail, and for folks curious what we're talking about, real quick, I invented this accidentally. I think it was 2009. I have to go back and check my book, but I sent it to Seth Godin. He was the first person to get one because I'd seen Seth Godin speak at an event, and it was fantastic. And I was sitting down writing him a thank you email. I thought, well, wait a minute, 200 other people are going to send him an email today, and I'll never stand out, or it'll never reach him. I'd like to send him something different. So I went to his website, and no fax number. And so, all right, well, what about FedEx? Or, because I like FedEx. It's 100% open rate. Well, his address was a post office box. FedEx did not, and I still think they do not deliver to post office boxes. They may nowadays.
Yeah.
So I go, oh, geez, what am I going to do? I guess I could send it. Well, wait a minute. What's a fax? Is a letter delivered by phone. This is my twisted reasoning. A fax is a letter delivered by phone. Then an email. So I just was filling in the blank. Then an email could be delivered by what? I was like, well, U.S. mail. So I printed the email, and the first one didn't have this big red, headline paper email. So it was essentially the thing I was going to send Seth. Instead of pressing the send button, I pressed the print button, printed it, and put it in a thank you note envelope. This is another little trick. So I sent it in the thank you note. He called me about a week later, said, Kevin, I got your super nice note. Thanks for sending it. I wanted to let you know I got it. Well, I thought that was interesting. I got Seth Godin to call me, and he was in his car driving at the time. So I thought, well, that was cool. Who else do I want to call me back? Well, all of my prospects, all the high value people in my world. So I've sent this to magazine editors and got an article placed, of course, to clients, prospective clients who became clients. I've sent them FedEx, as you may do. And people don't realize FedEx overnight costs money. I sent you guys your copy of this book overnight because I want to get there today. Well, FedEx 3-day costs like $9 if you have an account and you have a discount like I do. So same effect is the same FedEx letter. It gets there 2 days later at 100% open rate, and you have all their attention and they're reading it with interest. That's all you can ask for in any marketing communication. Will it get delivered? Will it get opened? And will it get read with interest? You got to have those three things working. And so FedEx works, but so does a thank you note envelope. So this is something that I've taught people, and I use it myself. Only good news comes in a small square envelope. You don't get a bench warrant for your arrest for outstanding traffic. No letter from your ex-wife's attorney is going to come in a small square envelope. It's either a party invitation or a thank you note. So either way, it's good news. Yeah. So you've kind of engineered them to be in a good mood when they're opening this little envelope, and then boom, out comes your paper email. And you can start it with thank you for reading this paper email, and you can tie it into the thank you theme. But thank you note is a poor man's FedEx. Yeah. And it's simply your message should be whatever you were going to send in your brilliant email, just print the thing. So don't overthink it. You don't have to be a copywriter to make it work. If you've ever written an email that got response, well, then print it and send it. And then you can call people. And I don't know what your talk track is, Jonathan, but you can say, hey, this is Jonathan. Did you get my paper email? Yeah. And you're going to go, what? Who's ever asked that question? Yeah. So it's either going to be a little chuckle or what do you mean? And then you can send it as a PDF and say, check your email. I just sent you an email version. Yeah. So, there's a lot you can do with the thing. And it was just a happy accident that I've now systematized and taught to people. And so, Jonathan, you're going to be in my new book. I'm going to make a little case study about you. Thank you. Oh, cool. Sharing. Yeah, it's fun.
Well, typically the response I get is most of the time when they do respond, when I send that out, and like I said, it's actually pretty high from the response rate, is that no, I haven't forgotten. No, it's just thanks for the reminder. And so it's not like you're annoying them. Typically, they're appreciative that you've reminded them because they get a ton of stuff to their email box, and they have, they only have so much time in the day. So it's a nice pattern interruption, nice break for them to get something that's kind of unique. And no one else does that. I mean, your competition's not doing that. So,
and I think people in position, I was just saying, I think people in position of leadership, because I know, Jonathan, you call them higher ups, and they respect a good follow-up process.
Right.
Like they recognize it and they respect it. And it says a lot about you as a sender if you're doing something a little bit different than what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And the nice thing about I'll just stop after this. If you send it in a thank you note, a lot of these go right past a gatekeeper because it looks personal, especially if you hand write the thing. And so these sail right to the recipient, just like a FedEx. No one wants to open, the boss's mail, whoever that person is, if it looks extremely personal. So thank you notes have 101 uses.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Like you said, the poor man. I love that, the poor man's FedEx, because does all the same things at a fraction of the price. And yeah, it's great.
What do you do?
You can fit a mini book in one of those too.
That's part of the strategy. And so what did I do with you guys? I practice what I preach. I mean, I could have just emailed you a PDF. By the way, you can't get this as a PDF. It does not exist. It's only print.
Yeah.
So this is different. Good. Yeah. And so you're both holding this. This is a portion of me that's now in your office. It's now in your world. And when we're done with this interview, they make tremendous coasters. So it has dual use. It's practical in several ways. But yeah, when you've got something in somebody's hands, that's why I want to talk about, the real words is a separate topic, but just real media, paper being the obvious choice. But just meeting someone in the flesh and shaking their hands, you're a medium, you're a person, you're a mode of communication. Anything real and tangible that people can hold on to is infinitely more trustworthy than whatever they can see on screen. No matter how brilliant your digital ads or your funnels or your videos are, it's all digital. It's virtual. This is tangible and real. And the research is compelling. It goes back, decades. People trust something they can touch more than something they can't touch. So if you're in the B2B world, especially if you sell a service as I do, anything that's intangible, the moment you get it on paper and get it into their hands, you've taken a huge leap forward. And your competition, meanwhile, is you're looking at their site and then you're over on X.com or Facebook or something pops up on your phone. There's no clicking around on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You're not going to get distracted as long as it's an interesting message. So one of my idols is Dan Kennedy. He calls it, selling in a competitive vacuum. There's no other game in town if they're holding your letter. Wherever they're giving their attention to, everything else is blocked out.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that because if you go into a boardroom and you're doing a meeting, most of the time they're going to print out the materials for you for that kind of for that same reason, right? Because there's something about having that tangible something in your hands that you can that is just more, even if it says the exact same thing as a PowerPoint on the wall. There's something people like about having that tangible. And I think that's just going to increase more and more as AI gets more.
Yeah, that's the beautiful part about all this, is that, as you said, there's one of my other subtitles for this is real marketing in a digital world and in an era of increasing digital distraction.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about, the distraction epidemic. Nobody can concentrate for more than 30 seconds in a row. That's true. When you're online, you're just like a hamster. And so offline, hopefully you're away from your computer reading this. So people can slow down and process things and give your message more attention. So
that's why I love the mini books, because it's like it's a little bite-sized chunks. I mean, a mini book is, you could probably put a chapter of a normal book inside of in a mini book. And to me, that's a better format where you could, you might publish a book on Amazon and that's great and everything. But you could take every chapter of a book that you've done and turn that into 12 mini books that you could send out to clients instead of sending them a whole book that's completely, they may hold on to it or put it on their desk, but the fact that the chance they're going to go cover to cover on that, or they're going to need everything in that. But if you can highlight a specific chapter in there that's beneficial for them and turn each one of those chapters into a mini book and have those ready to go, I think that's an awesome approach, because it really, it shows respect for their time. And then you're helping them by providing the exact, the value that they need immediately at that particular time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the idea of author, the word author is included in the bigger word authority.
Yeah.
No accident. And so as soon as you've written something, you're an authority.
Yep.
How about that? And, again, a PDF is fine and dandy, but we've all got 1,000 PDFs on our computer that we're going to get to any day now. And meanwhile, if something shows up that you have to give attention to, again, it's got to be compelling. You can't write crap. And this is self-published. I printed this, with my printer. I didn't go to an editor or anything. But this is because I write for a living.
Right.
If anyone can do this, if there's any kind of a lead magnet on your website, a special report, an executive briefing, anything, 8 to 10 to 12 pages can be printed and bound up really nicely. And there's your thing to send to people.
Yeah.
So a lot to talk about. We can keep going.
So we can go anywhere you want. And Sean, you can follow up with anything, but there's a couple of things, two things I want to highlight. You talk about real words and real media is two important components in marketing. We've already been talking about real media because we're talking about tangible stuff that you can send out. So what do you mean? Explain to us when you're talking about real words. Obviously copywriters on here probably know exactly what you're talking about, but using the language, the right language, or the language that your customers use.
Yeah. And that's going to help me fulfill my promise to deliver some big ass ideas. So in my little booklet here, I'll give you the story. Have you all heard of Big Ass Fans, that company? They make industrial fans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Barn fans. Well, the original name of the company was, do I have it in here? It was like HMLV Systems, which is what,
Yeah.
And they weren't doing so great. Yeah, I edited it out. So the guy was showing some prospects their fans, and one of the customers looked at it and said, "Those are big ass fans." And light bulb, big light bulb over the head of the marketing director. So he went to the company president, convinced him to change the name of the company to Big Ass Fans. And suddenly they had all the free publicity they wanted. And so, they sold that company for $500 million, and they make a commodity. It's fans, for crying out loud. You can get whatever they sell, you can get on Amazon for $50, right? But it's big ass fans. There's only one. So that's just brilliant. And that was listening to the customers, the buyers. So I have a concept called the voice of the buyer. The easy way to execute this is to have your ears open, because people will say things about your product or service that you would never expect. You just can't think of this stuff because you're on the inside. So if you're president of, again, I wish I remembered the actual name. It was, HMLV Systems or something. That's your company, and we make these large fans. And someone said, "Those are big ass fans." Completely the same thing, but viewed from outside the company. Maybe one of you guys can research the original name of the company while we're here. But so that's a perfect example. I had something like that. It wasn't worth $500 million. It was worth $1 million to one of my clients. He sold test prep software, which is designed to help your high school student ace the SAT so they can get into their dream school. So the headline of his website was results-based test prep. And it made perfect sense to him because his software was based on results, and it delivered results. And he was on the inside looking out. Meanwhile, they were doing good. They're doing well. He was on Good Morning America, and it was a good product, obviously. It was a good software. Well, while I was researching the letter, I was out and about, and my daughter, there you go, HVLS Fan Company. Yeah. So that's a $5 million name. Big ass fans, 500 million. I mean, that's the difference. So I was out researching. I took my daughter to Kumon at the time, which was tutoring. So I was in the market for this kind of software. So I was in Kumon in the lobby when my daughter was taking her math tutoring, and I saw a girl opening up a letter, and she was crushed. She said, "Mom, Dad, I got rejected again." And she had not gotten into another college. Why? Because her scores weren't high enough. So light bulb, I thought, well, that's the market talking to me. And she doesn't buy, her parents do. But if you're a parent of a student who doesn't get into their dream school, you will do anything to fix that problem, to keep it from happening again. So I went home. It wasn't that day. It was maybe the next day, but I was like, And I wrote the sales letter really fast. And the headline was, "Mom, Dad, I got rejected again." Well, sales doubled in 30 days. And my client said it was $1 million actual run rate for the rest of the year. And it's because that was the market talking. And so voice of the market kind of is clunky. So I call it voice of the buyer. If you're listening to what your buyers are saying about your product, you may find some gems. Another quick example is Eugene Schwartz, who is a legendary copywriter, one of the best ever. I'm sure Bob Bly could talk about him for hours. I could. But he helped launch a magazine called Boardroom Publications. It was actually a newsletter. And he interviewed Marty Edelston, who was the founder of the newsletter, and he let him talk for like 4 hours. And so he did what I do. Any good copywriter is going to just, what you want to do is pretty much write in the voice of your client. They're going to be able to sell their product or service better than you can. So if you start with that, so every good copywriter is going to interview you. But if they're really good or experienced, I'm more experienced than I am good because I've made all the mistakes and I'm tired of making the mistakes. So I try not to make them again. So one thing that I've learned is that if your ears are really open, you're going to hear some gems. So I record these things. I have for years. Yeah. But Eugene Schwartz was taking notes, and buried in those notes was the headline to the sales letter he wrote. And I'm doing this from memory too. It's how to get to the heart of 30 business publications in only 30 minutes a month, something like that. That's because that's what Marty said. And that launched, it was a $100 million business, I believe, launched from a kitchen table. But that headline came right from the voice of the client who knew the product really well. So again, if you're listening, your ears are open, you would be surprised at the gems you can hear. And just don't try to impose your brilliance on headlines or product names or things like that. It's a matter of, getting your ego out of the way and just kind of maybe taking dictation in a sense. You'll know it. Yeah. You'll know it when you hear it. But of course you need to test and run different headlines and different themes. But if your ears are open and your ego is kind of out of the picture, you can hear some gems. And there's more to it than that, but I just want to let you guys chime in on this.
No, I agree. I don't know if it may have been Schwartz that said this too, that, the best copy is not written, it's assembled.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah. And that is so hard, like you said, kind of for your ego as a copywriter to kind of put aside that you didn't write the original words, like at least it was for me. It's like, I felt this pressure, like, oh, I need to be creative and it needs to come out of my brain. And then you learn pretty quickly. It's like, no, if there's stuff there on the table to use, like use it, I think James Patterson talked too about having a golden gut and like being able to hear good ideas and recognize good ideas. That is a good part of your job as a marketing person, copywriter, salesperson. Being able to hear those things is
and it's actually fun for me to tell the client, you just said the headline there. They really like that when I say that. I had a client talking about his software, and he was at a trade show, and he said, yeah, one of the users said, I get to go home early. I said, yeah, and you'll know him when you hear him. What? Say that again. So, I mean, that's now the headline of their trade show banner over their booth. And they've been pretty busy since they made that change. But that's the end result of the software. I get to go home.
What CrowdStrike was it?
No, they're not going home for a few days. If you're watching this, you may need to Google CrowdStrike if you're watching this down the road. You've forgotten. Yeah, half the computers on Earth were on the blink last night because of someone at CrowdStrike. Yeah, that was. So you'll it's fun. You're on like a treasure hunt, and I'm always listening for stuff like that. But that's the beauty of things like Zoom or whatever. If you can record your stuff and just look at your transcripts, you'd be shocked at what you find.
Do you record most of your clients? I mean,
all of them, yeah. All of them.
So I have this thing where I go into meetings. I don't do this all the time, and I probably shouldn't do this, and I probably shouldn't say it on a podcast either, but I sometimes actually have the recorder going, like, just so, and it's just to record, because you forget things, you forget things in meetings sometimes. And it's funny when you go back and listen to things, because, because I do some traveling sometimes. So if there's drive time, I can go back and listen to the meeting, and kind of really go through it real quick and hit the highlights. But it's amazing how much you forget, because when you're having a conversation, you're thinking, your brain drifts to one thing that they've said, And meanwhile, they've said something else that's really important that you completely forgot about. I mean, that's just the nature of conversation sometimes, that you're so focused on what you're going to say or what they've said previously that you forget like some of the follow-up. And absolutely. I find that sometimes reviewing some of that stuff is you find like really some good gems in there that you're like, oh crap, they just mentioned this and here's an opportunity that I think I might be able to help them. So
I'll give you one last tip real quick about using real words. This is something that's only become possible in the last year since AI's been rolled out. So for years, what I would do is interview a client, let's say on a Monday, and then I would, beyond that, one thing I've done for years also is review testimonials about a client's product or service, what the reviews are saying.
Yeah.
And I found some real gems in, this is before Reddit, this is 20 years ago, blog articles, because that's people in the market, amateur writers writing, but then the comments on the blog articles, the comments are gold, because that's someone who felt so strongly about a topic that they just had to chime in and write stuff. So if you go on Reddit today and search on any niche, any product, anything, you're going to find people talking about it and bitching about it or lauding the product. But I just was doing a direct mail piece for a dental lab, and I found a couple of different subreddits about dental lab workers. Who knew? And they're bitching about this, that, and the other stuff. And the language is extremely technical, but it's right out of the market. I would have never. And my client can't even talk like that. So I showed him the letter. He said, "Where did you get this?" I said, "Oh, well, Reddit. I wanted to say how brilliant I was. Reddit, it's not me." And I pointed out these 4 bullet points. I didn't write any of them. I trimmed them a bit. It's amazing. We sent it out, and he got the most response he'd ever received it was an evening seminar that he was doing for dentists. Just don't go out to these things normally. He packed the room.
Yeah.
And it's because it was full of bullet points from dental lab workers. It's the market speaking. So that's an example of voice the buyer in action. Go to Reddit and you'll find stuff.
Interesting.
Right now. Yeah. And you can
just go there and like any topic, you could search any topic on Reddit.
Google craft beers, Reddit.
Yeah.
Or bad craft beers, Reddit. Good craft, good Wisconsin craft beers, Reddit. Yep. Put Reddit at the end of anything. Sometimes Google will steer you away from that because they don't like being sideswiped like this, because Reddit is really raw and it's authentic. You don't know if anyone's messing with the algorithms. But I'm not going to get Reddit is my new favorite gold mine. There are some other AI tools. And then, of course, what I like to do is I'll take all the reviews I can find about a product or service, make a giant text file, and dump them into ChatGPT, and then I will interrogate those reviews.
Yeah.
And I've done it for up to like 50, 60, 70. Tell me all the things people love about this, what they hate about this, what problems did it solve,
right?
What emotional benefits did they get? There's a series of questions I have. But this is stuff that I would have to read and pore over for days, finding these testimonials. And then literally I would sleep on them for 2 nights in a row. That was my modus operandi, is to sleep on things. Because you just can't draw patterns looking at, it's overwhelming to look at 70 testimonials on paper. Yep. But if you sleep on it for 2 or 3 nights in a row, you wake up in the morning with some ideas and your brain can connect the dots. Well, now I know I have to do that. Because ChatGPT does it in 2 minutes. It's amazing what you can pull out. And then I also prompt it to say, use the exact words whenever possible, denote them with quote marks, and then boom, here comes a comment about this product or service, and there's actual language. So that's where you can find some more pre-written headlines sometimes. I'm working from memory here. I was just analyzing a bunch of comments about insurance policies for a prospective client, and one of the reviews said, "You can't put a price on this kind of peace of mind," or words to that effect. Well, that's not a headline, it's a sub-headline.
Yeah.
And I never would have thought of exactly that language. So that's all the fun things you can have with real words if you're just listening to them out in the wild, or if you're finding them on Reddit comments about a product or service. It doesn't have to be your clients or your own. Anything competitive with you, that's still the market talking. And then if you're have the time and talent analyze this stuff with ChatGPT or whatever AI tools you're using, and just prompt it to give you back actual words and the answers. It's fantastic what you can do.
Yeah, speaking of the Reddit thing, I'm going to share my screen here real quick. So this is a cool little tool that I found, and this little brain down here on the right side, it's actually GigaBrain, and it's a Chrome plugin. So whatever you're searching for up here, so I've still got the, what was the original name of Big Ass Fans. It actually, the GigaBrain, if you click on it, it'll show you the top 10 relevant Reddit posts based on your Google search.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
And then it'll show you what some of the top ones are. There's a, too long, don't read summary, the actual source thread. So this has been kind of cool to where it just loads it for me each time. And you can just kind of scan them and see which one looks, which ones might be good or bad or whatever. It's just a little bit of a shortcut that you can use while you're doing research. It's called GigaBrain.
Okay.
GigaBrain. Oh, good stuff, man.
Yeah. And I love, whether it's Chat or Claude or, whatever the favorite one of the week is, they keep battling back and forth with each other. But yeah, to be able to like drop in transcripts from clients or, like you said, a whole bunch of website copy or testimonial copy and start looking for keywords and key phrases and things like that, it does save a lot of research time for sure.
It gives you a structure, here are the problems we're solving. And maybe you know this intuitively, but you've probably never seen it in that exact wording. You have to babysit AI because it's going to give you all sorts of preposterous language. Like sometimes it sounds like an 8th grader writing an essay. In conclusion, for some reason, ChatGPT, this just is like nails on a chalkboard to me. It uses foster as a verb in every answer, no matter how many. I mean, I've instructed it never ever use foster as a verb because that to me is a tell. There's certain language that is a tell. I can see it on LinkedIn.
No one uses that in conversation.
Fosters collaborative community. No, it doesn't. That's AI talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some tells. I've noticed a couple of phrases like in longer pieces that it'll come up with. One is it's not about blank, it's about blank, right? And they're kind of doing a metaphor type thing, and it'll repeat that same structure like multiple times throughout it. And the first time it's kind of cool, like it's good, but when it repeats it 3 times in a page,
right? Analogies are good. I like them. Parables worked for Jesus. Parables are a good thing, but you got to babysit the language.
Yeah, for sure. Man, so just for the people that are listening and aren't watching on video, I just wanted to describe, in case you haven't heard our episodes about the mini books that we've been talking about. So, Kevin, what's the size? Is it 4x6?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, this was not published by Minibook, which is a good company. This is just self-published, but at the same concept. Okay. Yeah, this is.
Oh, this looks just like a mini book.
Yeah, this is me and my printer.
Oh, okay.
Is this like A4 paper or something?
I couldn't tell you the specifics, but I believe it's 8 to 16 pages. I haven't actually numbered them.
So, yeah, if you were to put this into a Word doc, this would be what, 3 pages? 2 or 3 pages?
Oh, I couldn't tell you. It was probably if you wanted to like single space it, maybe 4 pages.
Yeah.
You got really 4 to 6 pages, but in a 4x6 little format, it's got more heft. You can still put it in an envelope without using an extra stamp, as far as I know. But I do anyway, just to be safe.
And stamps just went up, so we're up to 7. I didn't even realize, like, I just haven't sent that many letters, or my wife has the forever stamps, and I just, I don't know what they cost. So I saw that last week that they were going up to 73 cents, and I was like,
good
wow,
grief.
I didn't know we were
unbelievable.
So that's bad news and good news. It's, bad news because your costs go up if you do mailing, but it's good news because there's now going to be less competition in the mailbox. It's just.
Yeah.
Well, and still, like, and I've mentioned this to clients, like, a Facebook ad to get a lead not even the buyer. To get a lead is now easily a couple bucks to $10, or whatever. And all you have is their email. I mean, so it's getting so expensive now to do online ads that you could buy a list, a mailing list, and send out direct mail for about the same it would cost you to get an opt-in by email.
Yep,
it's getting pretty close.
Yeah, it's close, but again, you just want to make sure the economics work in your favor. And a lot of people don't know that you probably already have a mailing list, no matter what you sell, and your prospects. Yeah. And you can't go out and scrape websites for 10,000 people cost effectively, but if you do some triage on your lists and you qualify, the top 500 or 1,000, you can have someone on Fiverr do that for cheap. Yeah. And again, if you're B2B, it's simple. It's finding mailing addresses for websites or businesses. Yeah. It's B2C, it's more challenging, but the workaround there is just send an email to your list saying, I'd like to send you this free cheat sheet, free white paper, free report, and I'd like to send it by US mail, and be transparent, because, I want you to take 5 minutes, please read this offline when you're not distracted. So if you'd be so kind as to reply with your mailing address, I'll get this out to you. And so the people who reply have just qualified themselves as A, they read your emails, and B, they're interested in what you're selling. So that's a good thing. And you can put in qualifications. If your business is doing between 500,000 and 20 million, I invite you to reply. So you can qualify them in the email, but it's the easiest thing in the world. I just did it this week because there were some people I didn't have mailing addresses for. I sent a message to my list, and 2 guys replied, and they both have books today, and they're now qualified prospects for me, and I know their mailing address. So just ask. Right. Yeah, it's not that hard.
Yep.
That's a great tip. Sometimes the simplest, easiest things are some of the best tactics.
Well, I learned this firsthand. Gary Halbert did it to me back around 2001 or 2, because he was the late great Gary Halbert, who's one of the best copywriters who ever lived. He sent the same email I just described. I'd like to send you something, and so I replied, and I got letters from Gary for several years after that, and I ended up giving him $5,000 to attend one of his live seminars, one of the last ones he ever did. If I knew I was going to be talking about this, I'd have his letter. I've got bunches of his letters, but it all started with a simple email, and his email address was nosexgary@aol.com. I remember that. I mean, he didn't even have any. He had his CRM was his assistant Teresa. Gary was a character, but I mean, hey, just ask.
I've heard so many stories about Gary.
Down, his name is Doberman Dan. He's a guy I really recommend. Yeah, he was he worked with Gary for a year or 2.
He's been on the show.
Oh, good. Yeah. Doberman Dan probably had a bunch of Gary stories.
Yeah, he does. He's
a terrific guy.
He's a friend of mine too.
Oh, good.
He's got a great book, Just Sell the Damn Thing, which is kind of very Gary Halbert-esque.
Dan is very, very cool.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in a while. I need to reach back out to him.
He sent me all of Gary's newsletters on a thumb drive. The printed
email. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it wasn't one; it was 5. There were so many. So this is one that I have. Obviously, it's right next to my computer.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I actually got yesterday came actually about the same time your FedEx did, Kevin, or the day before yesterday. Somebody sent me a Gary Halbert dollar bill letter. My selling affiliate marketing course. Had a dollar bill on it. Had the the opening. Hey, I wanted to get your attention. There's 2 reasons. Blah blah blah. I was like, oh, I recognize this.
Right. Dan Kennedy set me straight on that. He said Gary didn't invent that. It was someone before him, and I forgot the name, but it was someone back in the late 60s maybe, or early 70s, when a dollar was something.
Yeah.
But Gary used it so well and effectively. So anyone
of course
doesn't know what we're talking about, Google Gary Halbert dollar bill letter, and you'll learn all you need to know.
Yeah. What would you need now? Like 20 or 50 with inflation?
If you work from first principles, why is a dollar bill there? To get your attention. So, I mean, if you get something that says paper email at the top in red letters, that has the same function. It gets your attention.
Right.
So whatever that's called a grabber, something that grabs your attention. You can staple. I've sent out Iraqi dinars with Saddam Hussein's picture on them. Stack over there. I've got Venezuela bolivars. So foreign currency works. I send out steel pennies to new clients. And I take the penny at the top of the welcome letter.
Yeah.
And the language is, why did I send you a letter with a steel penny? And it's like, it's one of a kind. It was only made in 1944. And like you, it's unbreakable, and a little bit more like that. But again, it's anything at the top of a letter that's going to start a story or open a question in the mind of your reader can be really effective.
Yeah, and there's so many things you can do like that. You can go to the dollar store, Dollar General, look at some of their stuff, and just if you use a little bit of imagination, you could put, playing cards from a deck of cards. You could put, Ace of Spades card on there. You could do. I remember for one company, they sold industrial parts, and we put a little baggie of corn kernels, like 6 or 8 corn kernels, and it was about a gasoline engine, and how gas with ethanol in it was ruining your motors. That's why so that was the tie into the corn.
Good.
It's just enough to get, like you said, it's just a grabber. As long as you can make a 1 to 2 sentence explanation of why it's on there,
right,
it works. The curiosity is like, why are they sending me a little bag of corn kernels like this? So
yeah,
it's a really powerful way. So it doesn't have to be money, but
no,
anything.
Just pattern interruption, like what's going on here, so it just breaks their whole train of thought.
Yep, exactly.
Well, that's super. So Kevin, how, going back to the real, so we talk about real words, when you're talking about real media, do we leave anything out? Cause I think, that's the whole premise is like, everybody's so caught up on digital, which you should still be doing, but you really need to also be thinking about how to, how to take your content from a digital format to, traditional format too, approach them in multiple ways, not just through the traditional. So everybody says social media today. And I think a lot of people are just burned out with that. Sean and I talk about all the time, going to the mailbox. It's almost like a little mini vacation. Like you're sitting in front of the screen all day and you're typing out emails and you get all this work done. It's like, you know what? I'm just going to take a break and go to the mailbox and just see. But that's basically what it is. You get something that's out of the ordinary. That's not a bill. Somebody's not asking for money from you. It's pretty nice.
Well, I'm asking for money, but I do it. I try to have
in
fun
a different way, right?
I want people. People want an experience.
Right.
So, I'll go back to this. I'll default to my client cloning kit, which I've been sending out for about 12 years.
Yes, I love that.
And so this is.
Can I ask you where you source that out from?
Yeah, it's Uline, uline.com.
Uline. Okay.
Red rubber caps, plastic tube, and then I have this came back because my assistant had the wrong address. It's going back out again, but this is this is a PDF that I printed and roll up and put it into this tube. So again, this is another way to get tangible with something that's typically only digital. So anyone who's got any kind of a report or guide or anything that you're giving away on your website, this is a way to deliver it offline. And you don't have to use a red rubber tube, but I just hit on this. You can't put anything on top of this. If you have a stack of mail, this is always on top.
Yeah.
And people post pictures on LinkedIn and they say, thank you. They send me. So who thanks you for your emails? Who posts your email picture on anywhere? Thanks for the email, Sean. I just uploaded a picture of it because it was so cool. Nobody. So this is a way to get attention, and total cost. It's just north of maybe $7 these days. But again, I know what my clients are worth to me, so it's an easy investment for me to make. So not just direct mail, but creative direct mail. I've sent knives to people and personalized knives. I can spend up to $200 in some cases without batting an eye because I know what a new client is worth.
Sure. Yeah.
So I could go on and on about what you could be delivering, but just when in doubt, start with a thank you note. I always hammer on this because people say, I can't afford direct mail, or I'm not a copywriter, or I can't send 10,000 letters. I can't afford that. You can afford one thank you note today to your latest best prospect.
Yeah.
An excuse. And you don't have to write a book. You can't write a book. There's no room. You can put in like 20 words. Send them a thank you note and see what happens. That's
how the story of Joe Girard, right? I mean, the guy's like in the Guinness Book of World Records for selling the most. He's sold the most Cadillacs ever.
Yeah, he's a Chevy dealer. I'm from Detroit, so I know the story. Yeah,
okay, all right.
He sold his commissions. This is interesting. Adjusted for today, he made I think $1.3 million a year in commissions as a retail. No fleet sales, one at a time, and he may have sold. I think it was 700 in a year.
Yeah,
and he sold. But what he did was, so there's more to this story. This is an interesting side note. I mean, he also he gave service like nobody else. He had his own private army of technicians at the dealer. It was Marola Chevrolet in Detroit. And he took the mechanics out to dinner once a month. So they all loved Joe. And anyone could have done this, but he was the only one who took the mechanics out to dinner. And he had them all over to his house for an annual beer bash. So they loved him.
That's awesome.
If a customer called and said, Joe, I got a bad muffler, he'd say, bring it in. And then he would say, hey, go out to the curb. My customer's here. And two guys would run out to the curb with their toolboxes because they love Joe. So
he basically ran his own dealership within a dealership.
He had a dealership within the dealership. And they said, how much is it, Joe? He said, it's free. And he said, this is in an interview he did in the Harvard Business Review. He said, if you get service like that, where else are you going to go? Right. And he was right. So this is not sexy. It's not sales. It's service. It's retention.
Yeah.
But this is part of the secret. They loved Joe whenever that happened to them. And so every month, as you said, Jonathan, he sent out a card. It was a greeting card. He had an artist he commissioned. So he was putting a lot of time and effort into this. You don't really have to.
Right.
You might, but he had a picture every month, and it was seasonal, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July. And the message was, Jonathan, I like you, Joe Girard. That was it. Yeah. It was always, I like you.
Yep.
I don't know how he settled on that. It's brilliant. No one can be offended by I like you. So he said every month there's a piece of me in your home.
Right.
And he also would send out, I think he called it bird dog kits to select people on his list. He'd send out a stack of business cards, and with a note saying, I'll give you $25 for any new sale who mentions you.
Yeah.
So there's way more to the story than just the greeting cards for Joe Girard. He was just a brilliant tactician. I mean, he just was relentless. I think he had 2 full-time staff who just hand addressed his cards.
Yeah. He had to outsource that because it was just so time consuming because he had.
And people crave to be appreciated. That's like a principle of psychology from William James, I believe it was.
And what's fascinating is like every other, you see your typical car salesman, you walk on the lot and they're like, they're taking numbers, I guess, on who gets to walk out and meet, and he never did that. He was never he kind of separated himself from everybody else by doing that, by doing things different, where he approached people that way, out on the car lot, walking up to them, hey, what you looking for, all that stuff. Yeah.
No, but it goes back to what you were saying, is that it's he's regularly showing up every month in the mailbox.
Right. Yep.
I've never in my life, I've maybe dealt with a half dozen car salesmen in my life, not that many.
Yeah.
Because I just stick with a guy, but I've never received anything from him. And my real estate agent, maybe a couple things.
Yep.
Anyone who's selling anything, your best client is your current client, but you're neglecting them right now. I can tell you are. So one of the things I do, I'm a copywriter. I'm also a coach. I call myself an uncoach because, I like to do things differently. The code name is the Ludicrous Project.
Yeah.
And it's called Ludicrous because what I offer is more sales from fewer clients and less work. I vary again, it's unadvertised. It's only to my current clients. But one of the things I do is in an hour a month, I'll coach you on how to stay in better touch with your top 10 clients. And then I have a VA who comes in and does work for you for 2 hours. So you give me an hour by Zoom, and then I give you back 2 hours of your time with my VA who's trained to execute stuff for you. So I literally give you less work to do, and you make more money, because I was talking to a guy a couple weeks ago. Who are your top 10 clients? He didn't know. So I said, find them. So our next call, okay, I found him. Good. So when's the last time you ever talked to them? He said, well, I've never met them. I've never seen them on Zoom. And I said, and I wasn't, yelling at them. I said, but these are your top 10 clients. Yeah. I said, all right, so we're going to get in touch with these people. And I went through some stages of, we're going to send them something. You're going on vacation to Europe. You're going to bring back beer coasters from Prague, or T-shirts from the Hofbräuhaus in Munich. And you're going to send these out by mail to your top 10 clients. And then we're going to be in touch with them every month. That's just part of the process. But when you start taking care of your best clients, they will buy from you again or refer others. You can clone them. This loops back to why I call my business client cloning systems, because I like to get more clients like your best clients from within your business. And if you stay in touch with them, direct mail is an obvious choice. If you treat them like Joe Girard treated his customers, it's not hard, but nobody's doing it, because we're all hunter-gatherers instead of farmers and caretakers.
Yep.
And that's fine if you want to do that, but there's just a huge opportunity. And some of my clients have been with me for 14 years, and because I take care of them. I send them stuff. I care. I give a shit.
And in the long run, it's actually less expensive.
Yes.
Oh yeah. It's more fun.
Well, you can
football games with my clients. I've been had fun stuff that we do. So that's an opportunity in anybody's business. Obviously, it's not what we came here to talk about, but it's what's going on underneath the surface in my own business. So I thought I'd share that. It's just like Joe Girard had a lot going on below the surface in his business that you couldn't see, but it's what makes it tick. So
one last question, Kevin, that I've been thinking about in the last couple minutes here. If you had $100 you could spend on a client acquisition, would you rather send $10 touches or $100 touch?
That's a very good question. Depends on what the client is worth. I'd probably default to $10 touches that were really thoughtful.
Yeah.
So the easiest thing in the world is to send someone a mug from their university. That's like the simplest thing. And I do that all the time. Something personalized that you can get for $10. What that is exactly, I don't know. But I tell you, with a little bit, I'd probably spend $50 of that 100 researching all of them. And then with the remaining 50, I'd send something personalized. So if I found out you guys were so into beer, I'd find a way to send you each a beer can of your favorite Pilsner.
Yeah.
That might blow the budget a bit. But the secret is to be personalized.
Right.
Yeah. That's a great
I'll
distinction.
tell you 2 quick stories and then we'll wrap, because I know we're going too long. This is from Doberman Dan. The way he met Gary Halbert was he researched him and wrote up a big fictitious newspaper article about Gary Halbert. And I can't remember what Dan told me the story, but he sent it to Gary, and Gary called him and said, who are you? What do you want? Or something rude. Or Dan called him. But he ended up being like his apprentice for a couple years. I don't know how long he worked with Gary, but he got that meeting because he just really went all out researching the guy.
Yeah.
I just this past week, and I was checking my email earlier. I think the FedEx won't get there till Monday. There is a prospect that I want. We're going to talk next week anyway. I did some research on him, and I'm going to make this very anonymous because he may see this someday and eat my guts, or I don't want to jinx the sale. But I found out he ran cross country in high school, and so did I. And I found a picture of him from his high school yearbook online, and there happens to be a picture of me that I found of. So you can see where this is headed. There, the top of it is his school picture of him running cross country, and below it is mine. And I don't want to give it away, but whatever the headline that it said in his in the newspaper actually that ran this story, I just riffed off it in the bottom. And so he's going to see this and go, what the hell? And that's the whole point. He's going to see him from 1990 and me from 1983. I have a porn stash and a bunch of hair. And the most unflattering picture of me that's available anywhere, but I'm being very transparent and vulnerable with the guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm sending it to him FedEx. We're going to talk next Tuesday. He's going to get it on Monday. We'll see where that goes. But that was 10 minutes of research. I found that right away. Wow. And that's an example of what you can find about your prospects, and anything's available now.
Yep.
And just find a way to make a connection. And so we're both runners, and what I wrote was pretty relevant to him. I won't go into the details, but once I saw there's a picture of him I've seen a picture. It was one of me, the same kind of picture. And so we're going to have an interesting conversation on Tuesday. I can tell you that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, you've got some, rapport right off the bat to talk about. So that's, that's always the most awkward part.
I sure did, I know he ran faster than I did, so I can, stroke his ego a bit because I was the seventh man out of seven. And I know he was a much better runner than me. So this is an example.
Right.
That cost me $0.
Yeah.
The FedEx cost 10 because they went FedEx 3-day. So there's an example I just gave you. Do that 10 times. There's your $100 budget.
Yeah. I know you'll have such a strong impression compared to everybody else. It's not even close.
He's either going to hire me and say, I don't care what you charge, you're hired, or he's going to say, what the hell is, there's a downside, but I know he has a sense of humor because we've already corresponded. And he's
Irish, there's the creepy factor, right? But I think people overweight that.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fun. That's a big part of my business all the time is researching the people that that I'm reaching out to. What are their interests? What do they love? If anything that I can find out on the back end before, even I have a conversation with them. And typically that's a LinkedIn. You can find a lot from a LinkedIn profile because they have, stuff they're interested in or things that they've posted on or things like that, so you can learn a lot about somebody.
There's a whole niche business right there for a copywriter to
research
your prospects.
And it shows research is important for a copywriter. If I can find all this cool stuff, and that picture of him took some digging, but it was just, I got lucky right away. This is part of what makes you any good in this business.
And see, these are the things that AI, they can't replace. I mean, AI is can replace portions of what we do or supplement, but they can't. I just feel like AI is not able to replace the personalization of marketing that we can, the way we approach, our prospects and our customers.
Agreed. It's a tool. It won't replace your brain, but it'll make you, it'll help you execute faster. You still have to come up with a good idea. It's a good brainstorming tool. That's another topic for another show. The best thing I've heard about AI is you won't be replaced by AI, but you will be replaced by someone using AI.
100%.
Yeah.
So that's the deal.
Yep. Yeah. Cool.
I think both those statements are probably true on a long enough timeline, but so yeah. Well, Kevin, how can people find out about you?
You can go to my website, clientcloningsystems.com, www.clientcloningsystems.com. That's what you'll see as of today's writing. And I go into detail about what the voice of the buyer is. If you click on what we do and some other things. Here's a fun thing. Click on the About one up at the top real quick, the About page. Yeah. And this is where I get personal about me. So this is what you were saying earlier, Jonathan, about LinkedIn. When people scroll down and they see, these are the industries I've written for. There's me and Dan Kennedy, my letters in one of his books. But if you go all the way to the bottom, the thing that people remark about most is my Spartan race up top there. Just because that's just a personal thing. I happen to love Spartan races. And that was an ultra, which kicked my ass. I lost 4 toenails and 5 pounds, but it was absolutely worth it. And so the personal thing is where people really make connections. And this is why I thought it was appropriate to tell this prospect that I'm a runner, because when you can make a personal connection with people, that's where you're off to the races. But I've done a lot of things in my life. And, if you're thinking about other people and not your own self, if you're not trying to impress, but if you're trying to just be interested in other people, that's how you can be interesting. Is to find something in their life that you talk about. That's Dale Carnegie 101. The book to read is
How to Win Friends. Yeah.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah.
I love the fact I mean, you sound like a pretty active guy. I think you play baseball too, right?
I just retired this year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's frustrating because if I told the team, if I was an Eskimo, you would have put me on an ice floe last year and pushed me out into the ocean. That's what they did back in the day when you outlived your usefulness. I was a 400 hitter 2 years ago. Last year I didn't hit my weight, and I do not weigh 200 pounds, so it was time to go. But yeah,
wow, that's a pretty significant drop. Yeah,
it was that. I can't explain it. Medical science hasn't found an answer. I said, I'm done, guys. We were a very good team, and I didn't want to drag them down. But yeah, so I try to stay active, and these are the things. So you can see my face light up when you ask about baseball. We just made a connection there.
Yeah,
that's what any smart marketer or salesperson should do. You
You're not a Twins fan, are you?
No, I'm a Tiger fan. I'm from Detroit, Michigan.
So. Oh, Detroit. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking Twins for some reason, Minnesota Twins.
No, that's like what you got there. Oh, I see some
up here too.
There you go, Sean.
Yeah.
I'm going to one in West Virginia in 4 weeks. After we hang up, I'm going to be out in the backyard with the 100-pound sandbag, lugging that thing around and running some stuff and kicking my butt. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, one of our guests 3 weeks ago, Mark Stern. He's a big Spartan guy as well.
Yeah.
So he's got
it's
the
like
box
Harley, Yeah, it's one of those things where we're like vegans or CrossFitters. We'll tell you within 30 seconds of meeting. Yeah, everyone's Spartan races. I mean, it's kind of annoying if you're not ready for it. But,
right.
So what?
Yep. Those CrossFitters and Spartan guys. I mean,
vegans, atheists. Yeah, they just can't wait to tell you.
Carnivore.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, Kevin, this has been a blast. We appreciate your time and your insights, and your knowledge, and the book.
Yeah.
Go to clientcloningsystems.com or LinkedIn, Kevin Donlin, and you'll find whatever you need to find out. Do a little research, send him a free gift, nice gift.
Yeah.
Check him out on LinkedIn too.
I have no compunctions about bribery as a recipient.
I hear you.
You had get on his AHA newsletter too, because it's good stuff. You had some stuff on the.
Thank you. Yeah.
You have some really good good articles.
My last tip is the print version is just the most, whatever gets the most engagement that month on LinkedIn, I print it, and that's my printed newsletter.
Yeah.
So I let the audience decide what the content's going to be.
Very cool.
Not hard.
All right.
Yeah, smart.
Thank you, guys. Really.
Thank you. We're going to we'll put you in the green room here for like 30 seconds. Sean and I will close out this segment, and we'll talk with you briefly on the back end when we close out the show. Thanks, Kevin. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
See,
talk shop.
Now
all day
I'm that's like. No, I'm a fanboy. Okay.
Yeah. He's got good ideas, man. Good stuff. And it's just, it's just sitting down and implementing some of these ideas and getting off. I mean, take the 6 hours a day of screen time, take one of those hours, and maybe throw some direct mail in the mail to your prospects,
Mm-hmm.
So that would probably be a good use of a little less doom scrolling, a little more direct mailing.
Direct mail. And I love that. Here's one thing that I picked up today is the thank you envelopes too, because I had never thought about that. But I mean, you can pick up a whole box of thank you cards, throw out the cards. Or, you can use the thank you cards, but you can also put the little, the email letter in the thank you card envelope. Because I forget about the fact that, that's even more personal than just a standard envelope is the thank you card envelope.
Yeah. You instantly recognize it as, like he said, good news. So I like that.
For sure.
It's good stuff. So
good stuff. All right. Well, you can find us persuasionbythepint.com. As always, you can find us on any channel that you tune into podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, all of those platforms, Apple, iTunes. Check us out if you're new to the show. We'd love for you to leave us 5 stars. You can also check out our YouTube channel. You can find us on Facebook, all of those places. But we appreciate all of our listeners. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week on another episode.
See ya.